so much for, agreeing to do this. And you're an amazing painter, and I can't wait to see your studio. So I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, thank you so much. So I volunteered to do the studio tour, and I'm so happy to be here today. Wendy was nice enough to give me an outline, so I'm going to sort of interview myself, ask myself questions from the outline. So I'm going to give you a tour of my studio, but first I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So as a person, artist introduction, as a person, where do you live? I live in Malibu. I live about a half a block from the ocean. And then I also have an art gallery, Malibu Contemporary Art Gallery, that's also about a half a block from the ocean in the Malibu Lumber Yard in Cross Creek, sort of the main shopping center of Malibu. Tell us about your family. I was raised in the San Fernando Valley. I started oil painting about 13 years old. I'm adopted. And one of the things that my adopted parents did that I thought was just so great is they really honored our uniqueness. I have a adopted brother and sister as well. And obviously we were all very different and unique from each other. And they saw how much I liked to paint. So they gave me painting lessons, private oil lessons, when I was 13 years old, which was really an act of love because, my dad was a high school automotive teacher and my mom was a homemaker. So it was kind of a big deal for them to do that. And every Christmas, what was on my list was painting supplies, like fantail I remember I wanted to make the clouds just right one year. So that was what I did for Christmas. And so then when I had my own two kids, who are now 25 and 26, I really had this impulse to find my birth parents. And then interestingly enough, they're both artists. So my birth dad is a glass blower by trade. And then my birth mom is just a creative. She's like a master knitter, master jewelry maker. So it goes back to the questions of, nature, nurture, for sure. Tell us your story as an artist. What inspired your journey? So I went to UCLA undergrad. I got an anatomy degree in kinesiology. And I really wanted to be an artist, but I just really didn't have the confidence to support myself with that dream. I didn't know how that I could turn that into making a living. So I had a big career in aesthetic medicine for about 25 years. I got an MBA along the way. I launched Botox, Allergan, and full sculpting, which is a fat freeze laser at Zeltique. But art was always my passion. So I used science to support myself, although it was aesthetic science, but art was my passion. So along with raising my kids, I was always taking a class. I was taking, porcelain doll making, ceramics, jewelry making. I took lots of painting classes, knitting, lapidary. And then when my youngest went off to undergrad, I moved to San Francisco and honored my dream and got an oil painting degree from San Francisco Art Institute. So I finally honored my inner art. I was so glad I had my traditional painting training when I went to art school from junior college and from Gertie Rodman when I was 13 years old, because my painting school was wild. It was just wackadoodle. It was all about art as a social message and a cultural statement. Everything was very gritty and abstract. There were no rules. They had people painting with anything they wanted. People painted with mud. They painted with blood. They painted with menstrual fluid. I mean, it was like night and day. Like, here's my traditional, like there was no middle ground. One of the things that I did love about my art college was the critiques. I think we can get so much from critiques with each other when they're done kindly and with good intention. That really helped me a lot. So, so my previous painting training with doing underpainting, limited palette and composition and colors. At my art school, they didn't teach any of that, which I just think is really wild. Because it's fine to go way abstract, but I think it's important to kind of have a foundation first of knowing how to paint. So then I came back to Malibu and finally had the goal to support myself as a painter and own an art gallery. So that was about a year and a half ago, and I am for sure on that path. I have this amazing gallery in Malibu where I represent 14 other artists. And I would say that actually, surprisingly, I think has really helped my own art and being a better painter, because I get to be, first of all, in the gallery, I get to be around everyone else's paintings all day. So I just, being in that inspiring environment and being around their art. And then just also really having empathy with them of what they go through. Me as an artist thinking, oh, I just want to support myself with my art. Well, when I'm around 14 other people that also want to support themselves with their arts, and I see their hopes and fears and insecurities, and, I get to get very close to that. And then I also get to see, just tactical things like how they wire their paintings and how they finish them and what frames they pick and stuff like that. So, so that's just wonderful. It's a joy for me. Another thing that I think helped my art, quite a number of years ago, I was asked to art model, and that absolutely terrified me. And so I thought, if this terrifies me, then that's something I think I need to do. So I did that for a couple of years. And I would say that also was really helpful with my art, just as far as, the empathy of like getting inside the art model and having to be on the other side of that conversation that we have with the model. So I really love that. When did you join Westlake Village Art Guild, and why? I guess, was it about a year ago, Wendy?
I think this is your second year.
Yeah, I think it was about a year ago. And why? So I'm the vice president of Malibu Art Association, and I just observed that there was so much that we could learn from each other, and what this group has going on that's so great, the dinner meetings and the really great shows that are done here. And I thought we could learn from each other. And my goal at Malibu Art Association as the vice president was really to help everyone figure out how to sell their art. And I thought, maybe the two groups together would just be great. I think, we all have that as a goal, and it's so esteeming. And I think it's being done differently today than it was 20 years ago. And how does social media play in with that? All that. So that was kind of why. Are you a member of any other groups? So I'm also a member of Allied Artists of Santa Monica Mountains. And I think we have some members in our group that are also members. I love to plein air paint, and this is just a really special, tight-knit group. They're amazingly talented artists. They're so generous with their time, and again, they do amazing critiques. Many of them teach painting for a living, and so when we go out and paint together, they're just really seasoned, and they're just really generous, and it's just a really great group. So what is my art journey? My medium of choice and genre. My medium of choice for sure is oil. I have done watercolor and acrylic, but I always go back to oil. The three genres that I paint, I landscape paint, especially plein air, and usually just with a palette knife. And then I like to do abstract hearts, also with a palette knife. And then I like the human figure. Who are my mentors? Honestly, my mentors are probably the other artists at my gallery. Bobby Bennett is my art director. She's a photographer, amazing, accomplished photographer. She's shown in the Louvre before. And then she also puts her photographs on surfboards and has formed a company called Stoked Surfboards that is financially incredibly successful. So I'm really in awe of her, because I think for a lot of us, we have this sort of creative side of our brain and then the business side. And Bobby Bennett somehow has been able to, for many, many years, be a successful artist and a successful business person. My other mentors probably are the Malibu Art Association members, because last summer we had these shows in Malibu. There was a summer concert series. Every Friday for like 12 weeks, we got together, for like 8 hours, and there's just something really special about being with a bunch of other artists for that length of time. And we were all trying to sell our art and talk about our art. And really amazing. What was your first piece? I have a flower still life I got out of storage to show you on when we tour my studio. What is your most recent piece? I'm working on a abstract, nude, and a plein air piece. Do you have any anecdotes? I guess my main anecdote would be about being blocked. I can really get blocked sometimes. And then what do you do? Because I really need to paint every day. And if I don't, I start to get grumpy. But then sometimes it's so hard to just take that first brush stroke. So I play a little game with myself where I trick myself into, I start with a blank canvas and I just put, some 3 or 4 basic colors on a palette. and I just paint abstract with no agenda. And usually with the palette knife, I just try and get some paint on a canvas. And for some reason, doing that sort of unlocks the other part of me where I can be more realistic and more detailed. But yeah, that first brush stroke is a killer for me sometimes. What inspires you? Nature, the human form, emotion. I'm a marathon runner, so I try and get out in nature every day. I have this hill right up by my house that I run straight to the top and just spend out at the ocean. It's really amazing. Do you have any accolades? This past year, I won Best in Show, this national prize for a landscape painting I did of Point Dume. And then I had 3 sunset paintings at Malibu City Hall representing the Woolsey Fire. What was my first show? So many years ago at junior college, I was taking ceramics class and we had a holiday show, and I think I sold, 4 or 5 pieces of my ceramics for like $5 or $10 each. And I have to say, it was so esteeming. It was, I guess that's the moment you go from artist to professional artist, right? Your $5 ceramic piece. But I just think it's just so great for an artist when a piece of their work gets sold. My favorite piece that I painted many years ago, it's a girl at wash basin. I did that on my studio tour. It was a final project at one of my classes. And so I think that's it. I think that wraps up the Lori Mills biography. And so do you guys have any questions? Do you want me to give you the studio tour?
Well, the thing that's so awesome about hearing all that is, of course, now I have a million things I want to talk to you about. So it is fun to get to know you better. So I'm realizing how much we have in common. But yes, we'd love to, unless somebody else has a question now. Otherwise, we'll see your tour and then we'll have questions at the end.
Okay, perfect. I think there's a way for me to turn the camera around, right?
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So what I want to say about my studio is that it goes from clean to chaos to clean. And I go really deep in my painting. I will literally be here for 4 or 5 days, barely talk to anybody, barely come up for air. And this place just gets wrecked. So there will be painting rags all over the floor. There'll be paint all over me. Everything is everywhere. I usually work on 4 or 5 paintings at once, so those will be stacked everywhere. So right now it's at a clean phase. So my tools, one of the things I learned in art school is that you don't have to clean your brushes very often. So I used to clean my brushes after every time I use them, and now I just keep them in here and just make sure that there's enough, Gamsol in there. And my palette knives, let's see. Some more. This is the painting I'm working on. This is another painting I'm working on, a Montecito. I go to Montecito a lot, and this is sort of a little garden area with some agapanthus. Here's a blown glass piece from my birth dad.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Here is one of my abstract hearts. The abstract hearts I usually make really, really big, 5 feet by 6 feet. And I have to say, for all the really intricate things that I do like this that take a lot of time at the gallery, it's these giant hearts that sell the best. As soon as I make them, I sell them. And I have this sort of bias that the more hours a person puts into their work, the more value they have. And I kind of need to get over that owning the gallery because, if you quantify it, I think the abstract hearts, they take some time, but not any time, compared to something that's really intricate like that. Let's see. So here's my paints. I always use, and I would encourage everyone to always use gloves. I had a number of professors at my art school that, that had painted their whole lives and got very sick, and many had actually, had died because of the toxins of pigments going into our skin. So hopefully everyone gloves that uses oils. Here's one of the paintings from when I art modeled. Here's a big vase that I made in ceramics class. And I have really good light here. I'll show you. I look out onto this garden.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's really great. And then the ocean is just right that way. I have this dresser that's filled with all my knitting stuff. So I'll give you a
Hey,
tour.
Laura, if you can, you got to go super slow with the camera, because otherwise we're all going to be on Dramamine. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can, slow and steady, and that way we can see it. Otherwise, it's a little bit jittery.
I see. Got it. Okay. I'll try.
You made that sweater?
So I knit all the time. This piece of furniture just has all kinds of yarn in it. Show you, like.
Oh my gosh.
And here's one of my plein air paintings that I did of Point Doom. It's just palette knife. And then here's another view of Point Doom, just a palette knife. And then in the studio, let's see, here's another blown glass from my dad. And then almost every dish that's in here, I made these heart dishes. A fellow artist of mine made this really cool light installation. Okay, I'm gonna whip around and then I'll stop so you don't get nauseous. Here's another blown glass from my birth dad. Here, this little piece of ceramic I made, I guess it says Lori 1973, so I guess I was like 8 years old when I made that. So here's the very first painting I ever made. This is still life. I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. And so my teacher, Gertie Rodman, she was really into still lifes and landscapes. But for some reason, at one point in time, she had me make this clown, which is just not anything I would ever choose to paint, or I would think she would choose to paint, but I don't know.
I love it.
Again, with like, I don't know if you could see, like, really like to have a giant signature back then. I don't know what that was about. And then I think in conclusion, I'll show you, this is my favorite painting that I ever painted. I just like I like how calm, I like the colors and I like the composition, but I like how calm she feels. I don't know if I'm moving too much. If you can see.
Oh, that's good. That is gorgeous. And how big is that? That's a big one.
I think it's 18 by 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. That's kind of the studio. Like I said, it can be a giant mess, but today it's pretty cleaned up. And then I guess you have parting wisdom. Gratitude. I would say I am so grateful every day for my life. I just feel like I, waited all this time to finally be on my golden path and just get to paint every day, and that's what I do, and it's just amazing. What would I like to contribute to this group as a member? I really would like to help contribute how to sell art. And before, when I first became a member, I didn't have this gallery, so I've actually learned a lot about how to sell art, and would be happy, once we have meetings back up again, I'd be happy to share everything I know about that and what I'm learning about that. And do you have any parting wisdom? So this wisdom isn't mine. It's from one of my teachers at art college. One of my last classes, one of the last days, he actually said two things. The first thing he said is, a lot of you, once you get this degree, you'll never pick up a paintbrush again. And I still think about that. I mean, he must know that's true. He teaches there. But I just thought that kind of horrified me. But the other thing that he said is that if you just keep painting and you just keep painting, eventually someone will come out and find you. And I think that's true. So
that's awesome. That is true, though. It's sticking with it for sure. Well, you are such a perfect example of the dedication and the work that you put in to get to where you are. It's really impressive. So thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
My pleasure.
Now, if you guys would like to unmute and show yourselves again, your beautiful faces, then we can have some question and answers. And
Laura, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Laura, I have a question. Thank you so much, Barbara Welch, Carlson Star Association, and also Westlake Village Art Guild. But we also have a plein air painting group, and we meet once a month. Generally, if you'd like, I can put you. I mean, you're probably way above the rest of us, but we just have a great time. But if you would like to join us, well, I can certainly put you on my email account.
Hey, can I get on that too? I love plein air.
Who's that?
Helene.
Oh, Helene, I thought you were.
Which
Oh,
group?
I'm sorry. Okay. You got it, girl. Okay. Anybody else?
Well, and I know I sent it out in the last newsletter about the plein air event this week that unfortunately got canceled. Tomorrow, I think, Barbara, is that what I read?
I had a major flooding problem, still do. So,
Yes.
I have another quick question. Sorry to take up too much time. Lori, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Lori, I have painted several times, Point Dume, and the problem, my sister lives right out there. I understand that they're doing a lot of work at the Point right now, and it's kind of crowded with workmen. Do you know if we can even get up there anymore?
So the last time I was there was about a month ago. There was Malibu Times Magazine actually they photographed me out there, taking a picture of me painting out there, and it wasn't any problem. But that was about a month ago, so I don't know. Yeah, it's been a month since I've been out there.
I think they're building new stairs. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
I have a question for Bertha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Laurie, you seem to prefer a palette versus the brush. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And why?
So why palette versus brush?
Why do you prefer the palette?
So I think two different reasons. The first one is the palette. For some reason, when I use the palette knife, I feel like that's more the emotional part of my. I don't know why. The palette knife is more emotional for me. So when I'm abstract painting, I just go to the palette knife, and then when I'm plein air painting, I have to paint fast, right? Because there's only so much light, there's only so much time there, and so something about the palette knife in my brain seems like it's a faster way to paint, and I just like how things turn out. But when I do more intricate, then I do use the brushes, and I go, from the synthetic brushes down to like the sable brushes, and do really, really fine detail, and only use brushes. So I think it's like abstract palette, plein air palette, and then for more.
With the palette knife, you can get thickness, which is more difficult to achieve with a brush.
Yeah, the texture. You're right. I like the.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Aloha.
Yeah, aloha. Hey. Hey, listen, Lori, first of all, thank you for your wonderful, insightful studio tour. That was very, I appreciate that very much. I had a question. I saw that you had a little note. I think you called it a thought line next to your brushes. Could you share that with us?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Let me go grab it. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So one of my painting teachers many years ago, probably my favorite painting teacher ever, she had these three things that she taught us, and they were lean to fat, dark to light, and big to small. So sometimes I forget that. Sometimes I want to put the white on the canvas before I put the black, and that never works out. So the dark to light, the big to small, and then the lean to fat was just starting with Gamsol for the first coat, and then slowly mixing in the linseed oil or the Gamblin or whatever your oil is to for the next layers of paint.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
it is.
Do we have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, Lori. Thank you for sharing your studio and your experiences with us. It's great. Speaking of teachers and palettes, I was thinking of your color palette. And I was wondering, first of all, who would you say are your couple of your favorite artists that you admired, have already admired, aside from teachers that you've had, but, you know, I guess more famous artists?
Okay, that's a great question. So I say my top three artists that are, you know, super well known are Chagall, Matisse, and Van Gogh. Chagall, I just love his use of line and the stories, the Bible stories that he did. He has the mermaids that I'm obsessed with. I just think his color is amazing. Matisse, I just love that Matisse is to me, like the perfect amount of representational and then a little abstract. You know, there's that one painting he did that's just unfinished. That's probably my favorite piece. And then Van Gogh, probably back to the palette knife. I love Van Gogh, just the emotion and passion, and it's representational, but it's like you were saying, there's so much texture to it because he just glops the paint on. So yeah, I would say those are my three favorites.
Okay.
What are your three favorites?
Gosh, I like a lot of them. I think John Singer Sargent and Mary Cassatt, you know, Van Gogh, of course, but I love the Impressionist era, especially. And I was looking at your palette, your color palette. It looks like you use black in your color palette. Is that right?
I do use black. Yeah.
Which kind of follows along with Chagall and Matisse. So I don't use black at all when I paint. So I find that, you know, but that's a different approach, and I understand that. So yeah, so that's just good to know where you're coming from in your direction and where you want to go too, right?
It's really interesting. I think that, like, who's your favorite artist is such a great question. And then what are your favorite colors too? I would say my favorite colors really are silver and gold to paint with. Many of those giant abstract hearts that sell so well. It's, you know, I use a warm and a cold, right? I use a cold gray and a warm sort of beigey, you know, sand color. And there's just something to my eye, that's so appealing when you have a good balance of warm and cold. In your painting.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I have another question. In your abstract painting, do you like to put some realistic motif or like deep art or something else?
The ones that please me the most have something a little representational. Like if I do a line abstract, it'll almost always end up looking like a human figure, even if I'm not trying. And yeah, the same with the heart abstract, but you can tell it's representing a heart. So yeah, that's a really good question. I have this one I'm working on now that's just pure abstract, and I'm really stuck on it. I kind of don't know what to do next with it.
Lori, do you find that in the gallery, the paintings that sell are more realistic or more abstract?
100% abstract.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding.
And for me, it's really frustrating, like I was saying earlier, because I think my representational work is, I mean, it's so thought out and it's so carefully done, and I put so much time in it, and that's not what people want to buy. They want to buy these giant things that, you know, people have put color on, and you know, I honor the work because it's not, you know, they're just not 16-year-olds that are just throwing paint at a wall. They're, you know, established artists that have had, you know, long and successful careers. But I just go back to, like, I don't know. It's something I think about a lot. I was at the gallery last night, and someone was telling me how much more she liked abstract work than representational, and I asked her why, and she said, I think it just gives me more room to have a conversation with the piece. If something is really so perfect, I don't feel like there's any room for me to have feelings of. But I also think it's just contemporary right now. This is just what people think they should have on their walls, kind of like everyone else has this, so we have it, kind of thing. So, I think that trends, and maybe that'll trend back to more representational. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's why probably a lot of representational artists are trying to loosen them up a lot by kind of breaking forms, and so it's not quite so realistic, and hopefully because you wonder how to sell your work then if you're not an abstract painter.
At Malibu Association, we have an artist, if you want to look her up, her name's Daniela Schweitzer, and she's by far our most successful painter. And hers is just what you're saying, Wendy. It's for sure representational, and it's the figure, but it's also abstract. It's like just the right amount that people seem to want. And Daniela Schweitzer, if you want to look her up, or maybe you guys know her.
Schweitzer,
like Albert Schweitzer, Schweitzer. Danielle Schweitzer. But I think, if you want to see representational work that sells, I would look at hers for guidance.
Okay, that's good to know. I definitely want to look at her work. All righty. Well, we are at the 10:30-ish mark. If anybody has any more questions, now's your time. Otherwise,
Just
want you all to get. Oh, good.
Just Laura, what are the hours of your gallery?
So we have limited hours right now because of COVID. So we're open on the weekends, for Saturday and Sunday from noon to 6, and then by appointment. And then every so often we'll have events, or we'll do things like this Friday, like tomorrow, Malibu Art Association. 3 of the artists in Malibu Art Association show their work out on the courtyard from 12 to 6.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
And what is the name of the gallery?
It's Malibu Contemporary Art Gallery, and it's Instagram, which we all need. If you want to sell your work, you all need to be on Instagram, as much as like it's painful to have to learn a new thing. It's Malibu Contemporary Art on Instagram. Oh, and my Instagram is Lori Malibu Art. And I do way more on my Instagram than I do. I rarely update my webpage is Lori Mills Fine Art. And it's nice, and I put a lot of work into it, and I actually, really taxed my brain and figured out how to actually sell my art online on my website. But I will confide to you all, I have not sold one thing on my website. I sell my things online on my Facebook page and my Instagram.
Yeah, I do too. The website does nothing.
It does nothing, and I pay, I don't know, $20 or $30 a month to keep it up, because you can actually buy stuff on there, so they charge you for that. And I guess it's good for marketing, because people can go on there, and it's more, much more information on there than on my Instagram. But people, if they're buying art on Instagram and Facebook. So you have that same experience, Wendy?
Yes, definitely. If I post a picture on Facebook or Instagram, somebody will right away say, "Oh, are these for sale?" And it's like, well, yeah. But I don't get that traffic to my website. So
I have a question. So when you post your work on Instagram or Facebook, are you watermarking it, or are you just putting the image up there?
I'm not watermarking it. There's some members of Malibu Art Association that really are, that have talked to me about that and doing that, but I just haven't done it.
How about other artists on this Zoom?
I don't watermark, and I
you
sell
watermarking
through.
when you post?
I don't, but I
No,
also
I
sell
don't.
through Etsy. That's my online gallery, is Etsy,
Gotcha. Let's see.
and I don't watermark now.
I just have to say, I have found the same thing that I'm selling by putting pictures on Facebook. They go on there, and then immediately someone will say if they want to buy it. And the website, as you said, the website pictures are all there, everything's there. And I guess people go we'll go and look and browse, but that's not where I do any selling from.
Uh-huh. Lori, when you put something up on Instagram or Facebook, and someone expresses interest in buying it, do you direct them to? Do you go to a messenger? How do you handle that?
Yeah, they'll usually actually use Messenger for me.
Okay.
They'll usually contact me. I'll post it, and then they'll contact me by Messenger.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Sadna, I know you had a question. Are you still there? Sadna?
I can't hear her, but she's not muted.
Because I know she chatted, she wanted to ask a question.
I know, she raised her hand too, but I can't hear her.
Do we have any other questions?
Can she type her question in? Can you type your question in, and then Wendy, you read it out loud to us?
Yeah. I shall type my questions. Yay. She is typing. You know, while she's typing, speaking of selling on websites, I have to announce that Connie Shu just sold a painting on our Westlake Village Art Guild gallery.
Yay!
So we are very excited about that. Hopefully the first of many to come.
Awesome. Yay.
Sadna, are you typing?
$3 million.
Lori, this was a wonderful tour. Sadna says you were a perfect mix of an artist with a knack for business.
That's sweet.
Which is very true. We all may need to pick your brain. So, you know, another thing I was always thinking, I know Helene and I thought about this for a while, of how to do a group on, say, Zoom, that we do critiques. And that we work with each other. I'm working on this painting, and I'm stuck right now. Do you guys?
I plan on doing that at our social gathering. I plan on our social gathering have some crit time. So log on to the social gathering and bring some artwork to share with people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. That'd be a perfect time to do it. Except that if everybody starts drinking their wine and then starts critiquing, it could get out of control.
No, I'll make sure I monitor it into niceness.
Yes. Sadna has one more thing to ask. She says, I am so curious to know, what did you do with the money from your first major art piece sale? Ceramic sale?
Probably like went out to McDonald's or something. I don't know.
That's funny. After art school.
Oh, after art school. Oh my gosh. What did I do? You know what I did? I put the money back into buying more stuff, buying more art supplies. Yeah. I distinctly remember I got some huge bill from Dick Blick online. I don't know if you guys know.
Yes.
Yes. Well, and you know, you think about how much money we put into workshops and supplies and rejected canvases and frames, and people don't understand
And paint.
what one painting really does cost. It's, let's see. Sadna says also, how do your children perceive you as an artist or a mother?
Oh,
Wow.
great question.
Oh, that's such a good question. I would say they're my biggest cheerleaders. The most amazing thing about children is you have them and you raise them, and then they give back. You know, at some point, they become, you know, your teachers. And my daughter has a degree in advertising and marketing from Chapman, from the second best business school in the country as far as that kind of like advertising and PR. So she really helps me with, how to market myself and stuff like that. I think I'm really proud of them for what they've become, and they're really proud of me. I would say they're kind of my coaches, and I'm their coaches. And yeah, it's just really, I'm just in awe of having kids in their mid-20s, what that's like. It's just so interesting. But I think they're proud of me. I think they would say they're super proud of me, as I am super proud of them.
Well, that I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. Okay, Sadna, let's see what else she just asked. What happens during your artist zone period? Everybody around knows not to disturb you.
They so do. They will, like, like I'll look at my texts and it'll say like 25 unanswered texts and, all voicemails, and they'll get to like, oh, you're dark, right? You went dark now. We get it. There's exceptions to the rule for sure. If my kids are calling, then I'm calling them like that. There's a small group of people. My dad is still living. He's in a retirement home. So, if it's my dad or my kids, then I'm there. But I just figure anyone else, even at the gallery, it's not, cardiac surgery. It's okay to wait.
Lori,
Yeah.
I don't know
You
if we have
do that too? I'm curious. Does anyone else do that? Does anyone else go dark for that long?
My children call it a fishbowl. They say that when I'm there, it's like, I look like I'm present, but my head's in a fishbowl, and the only way they can get my attention is to knock on the glass. So for years, my daughter comes up to me and she just does this, which is just to mime that she's knocking on the glass to get my head to be conscious, because I'm in my head so deep in a creative space.
Bless you.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
I don't know if we have time for one more question or not. Since you were talking about the abstract versus the realistic or representational selling better, I agree that seems to be what's selling most today. But every time I try to approach and do an abstract, it just doesn't go well for me. So is it mostly because you start with palette knife, or you start with a certain design concept, or how do you get into an abstract? I guess I know you have your heart thing, but if it was just an abstract that it wasn't particularly a heart abstract, what would get you into it? How would you approach it?
It's a good question, because when we're all painting from the figure or we're painting from a still life, we all have the same agenda of what we're supposed to paint, right? But to teach an abstract class, well, the abstract classes I took, you just kind of all do your own thing. It's so personal and unique. I can't really give you advice of how to dig into it. I can just tell you what I do, and which is to use the palette knife and to use limited palette, pick 3 or 4 colors, and just get out of your head. I mean, you might, I don't know if you drink, but you might even want to like just loosen up, get out of here and get in here. Because here is right, like you want to get that last brush stroke and you want everything just right, and you paint real small. If you don't use palette knife, I would say use giant brushes. So you have to let go of all judgment and any expectation. And, maybe play music that you really love, that's really fun, dance around. It's a whole different mindset. It's really freeing, but I also honor, like, if it's really not you, how do you force it to be you? But if you're really not an abstract painter, I don't know that your abstract paintings you would even like or want to sell. But I think it's an exercise worth trying, because I think you will learn a lot about yourself just trying. Just, if you've never painted abstract, just, do kind of what I do to sort of break my, when I'm in a funk, just go for it. And if it seems like too big of a task, I would even like set a timer for 10 minutes and say, okay, I hate this. I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to try it, but I'm only going to do it for 10 minutes. And then see after 10 minutes if you're having a good time. And if you're not, then put it away. But at least try, just do it. Do it right now as soon as we get off. and then everybody, we should all email each other what we came up with. That's good.
It's a great idea. We can share it on the October 2nd social hour. So,
Yes.
A girlfriend of mine is in an abstract class right now, and her assignment, she had 2. One to paint a smell, and one to paint a sound.
Wow.
I would freak out, but I think it is. It's probably a good thing for all of us to try to just play.
So
it doesn't have to be.
I decided to do that daily paint challenge that you guys have all been doing. And so in doing this daily paint challenge, I'm doing them all abstract for fun.
Wow. Good.
It's great.
Trying to do them abstract.
That's
Realism seems to creep into it.
Everybody, well, I didn't need to keep Lori too long. I told her 30 to 40 minutes. I would like to thank all of you, especially Lori, for doing this today. It's so much fun to kind of get to know everybody a little bit better, and a lot of this makes so much sense to me. So now I'm excited to try an abstract, and I've loved what everybody else does, and it's a great way to bring us all together. So thank you all for being part of this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Well, thank you.
We want to come in and see your gallery now, so we'll have to set that up.
Would love it.
Definitely.
So anyway, alrighty, everybody, I'm going to say goodbye, and you're welcome, Sadhna. And we'll see you all. Iris is our next studio artist on October 8th. So I'm looking forward to that one. October 2nd is our happy hour. And then we have a big surprise, October 15th. A really awesome demo that I will announce in the newsletter. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Abby.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.